Let them see your true qualities.
My poor judgment.
Your sense of humour.
Ho, ho, ho. Your Majesty.
Mr. Churchill, I invite you to take up the position of Prime Minister.
My name is Tim, this is
Alex. You got it right this time.
I got it right, yeah. I was looking back at some of the videos. I was very confused in the last couple of videos. I mean, more confused than normally. Anyway, yesterday we went and saw
Darkest Hour.
Yes, which was a movie about
Big Winnie Churchill.
so Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of the UK, who became Prime Minister during the Second World War, and when everything looked, you know, pretty bad.
You might say it might have been the darkest hour.
Yes. So the movie is called Darkest Hour. It has 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Movie, Best Actor, Best Makeup, and 3 other things that I have completely forgotten about.
Set design, I think, or production design.
I think both.
Something with cinematography as well.
Oh yeah. So 6 nominations. It is basically about, I think, a month in Churchill's life, wherein he becomes Prime Minister and he has to convince Parliament, has to convince the King, has to convince the country to keep fighting the war and not to negotiate with Hitler. That's the plot of the movie, basically.
Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't know how World War II ends, you're gonna enjoy it. Don't read history books in the meanwhile.
But I mean, it doesn't tell you how it ends.
It doesn't tell you how it ends.
Oh, well, it does it well.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, it does say in the end. But anyway, here's a trailer for your enjoyment.
We are looking at the collapse of Western Europe in the next few days.
You ask what is our aim? Victory at all costs.
You're suggesting we're somehow winning. We're not.
Is it true we're in full retreat?
All our forces are now in Dunkirk, where we cannot reach them.
They're pushing us into the sea.
There is the question of peace talks between ourselves and Germany.
Europe is still...
Europe is lost.
The child.
You have the full weight of the world on your shoulders.
How many men will survive?
Go to the people. Tell them the truth.
We must rouse to an heroic resistance.
There's nothing patriotic in fighting to the end. Now is the time to negotiate.
When will the lesson be learned? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth! I take full responsibility.
Really?
Really? Yes, sir. It is the reason I sit in this chair.
Be yourself.
Myself. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender! For without victory, there can be no survival.
Hi, we're back. I hope you enjoyed that one. Alex, what were your first thoughts about this movie?
I thought it was quite a nothing sort of movie. There wasn't any substance to it.
Okay.
But also I thought it was, and I said this to a few people yesterday after we watched it, it seemed like it was part of like a TV series, or like a made-for-TV series.
Yeah, I think a movie that is about a lot of the same issues, like Dunkirk, what we already watched. Dunkirk's a far superior movie to this one, but far superior. This is a fine movie. I don't really understand why it's nominated for Best Film. I don't see it.
Well, I think it's because maybe people, like the message, the history, the message of people like Churchill. So
It's I think
it's serviceable.
Churchill is a very complicated historical figure, but you know, when it comes to rhetoric, he you know, a lot of the stuff he said was very, you know, inspiring, and that's also true for this movie, but it just doesn't have the same level as Dunkirk, Three Billboards, Phantom Thread, I, Tonya, all these other Oscar-nominated movies that we've seen, that I think personally are actually better movies.
Yeah. Well, having said Churchill is a complicated figure,
Yeah.
I'm sure most people around the world are not really familiar with his complications, apart from him being a bit of a drunk.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people around the world don't really know about his trials and tribulations. And the film doesn't really go into much detail about them. They're mentioned, but
The film, so if you don't know that much about Churchill, do go to the Wikipedia article. He's a very interesting character, and well, the things you might know is probably the stuff that's mentioned in the movie. There's a lot of stuff that happened before that, which is not very. I mean, he was responsible for a lot of. You could say that he's responsible for a lot of people dying during the First World War, other times as well. And he has a very complicated history. And this movie does mentions these things, but, and I understand this, does not go into it, because that's just very difficult, because you're making a movie about this month in the period, in that period, and it's very difficult to then, you know, throw in all the other stuff, because here's the problem. Yes, this is history, but there's a lot of disagreement on who was wrong and what. And Churchill never agreed that he was, you know, in the wrong when it comes to Gallipoli and many other things as well.
yeah. But then the film also doesn't 100% lionize him.
No,
It does show him as a flawed person, or
As
a
a
man
human.
with doubts.
Yeah, it shows him as a human. I think this movie tries to be both a political thriller and then also this rousing nationalistic, or maybe not nationalistic, but you know, a rousing picture, which it's
It sounds
about.
like a rousing picture.
Did you think it was arousing, Alex?
50 Shades of Winston Churchill.
50 Shapes of Winston Churchill, yeah.
50 Shades of old grey-haired men.
God. But so yeah, it's I think it's difficult as a movie. But you did see, they tried a lot of things. Like cinematically, there were some shots, but they tried to give you that feeling of, oh, this is war. Problem is, if you've seen Dunkirk, you've seen that done this year. I mean, this Oscar season for that period, and you've seen it done better. So they tried a couple of times.
They did, but I thought they were kind of pointless. They didn't really
It didn't
add
add. It didn't add.
to the film, and if anything, it might have been more powerful not to show Calais, for example.
Yeah, it was fine, but like having seen Dunkirk, somebody did that very recently, and somebody nailed that. Nolan nailed that. Like, if you're talking about that kind of cinematic effects, then that's
Yeah, but very, very different films with different
with different tones.
tones, different purposes.
They're both movies about war, but the war is a lot more tenable in Dunkirk. Like, it's a lot more there. Whereas Dark Star is also about the politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a film about war. It's really
No.
just a film about him
Yeah.
and pretty much no one else really. There are a few characters like the
The typist.
typist, and we've spoken a lot about pointless characters in films. But yeah, I think it was just a not really necessary
Yeah.
character or not really used.
I mean, so there's this girl that types his speeches, and she's a stand-in for the audience. Like that's you live through her. That's the idea. It doesn't really work.
Because you don't really, because it starts off where she is introduced to him and people are explaining, okay, this is his character, blah, 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 this is what he'll be like. And you think, okay, this is how the film's going to go, you're going to be following it through her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But then it seems to throw that concept out of the window,
Because
and
you
then she
can't-
comes back in an hour later.
Yeah, but you can't do that because the typist will not, is not in all the meetings, which they all also, maybe we're being a bit too rough, but I think this is it's a fine movie. I think it's an interesting movie. There is one scene though that is a bit over the top.
Yeah,
There is the subway scene in
he
which
gets a sandwich.
he he does not get a sandwich. In which Churchill goes among the people and asks their opinions, and it's just like at this point, I don't really believe that ever happened, and it doesn't seem that does not seem realistic in any way.
No, and it's well, you know how I feel about cheese and patriotism.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy dose of both.
It's just over the top. Till then, I was actually quite enjoying it, but that kind of ruined it for me, honestly.
Also, the scene where they're flying to meet the French president,
Completely useless.
completely useless, but also like unrealistic.
Yeah.
They're not going to be. Yeah, that was the first kind of thing that struck me as like, no.
It's an interesting movie. If you can tune out your brain, you might enjoy it a lot more than we did. I couldn't, so I didn't. I was fine.
Did you find it that interesting though?
There were parts of it. I think there were some interesting dynamics. I liked the king. I think it was well done. Those interactions, it just got a bit. It got too cheesy. I mean, this is not how they try to go realistic and to show you how people behave when they're under this amount of stress. And it was a bit too funny for me, honestly. Like it was too. They had difficulties with tone.
Yeah, I never really felt a great deal of tension or drama in the film.
No.
You described it as a thriller. I didn't find it thrilling.
It's what they tried to do. Some of the political stuff was interesting, but it was never. You never felt on the edge of your seat. Like they never made that clear. Whereas
it was like a bland episode of The West Wing.
not a very good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. So before I think so best movie according to us, Hell No.
No.
This and Molly's Game, like they're the same. Although Molly's Game might be a bit better.
But that's not nominated for Best Picture, is it?
Adapted screenplay.
Yeah, but not.
But
for
not
Best
Best Picture. But yeah, I think I don't know why this is nominated. I don't see it.
You did see it.
I did see it. Thank you. So, but then there's Gary Oldman, who apparently might win Best Actor. Would you?
He's nominated.
Yeah, well, he's nominated, but the word is that he's front runner. Like people think he's gonna win it.
Okay.
Because sometimes people win it because they've had a long career and didn't win an Oscar. And
do you think he should have won something for anything else?
no, I think he's a fine actor, but he's never had that performance where you went, oh. And this is not it either.
Well, I think when I saw his hair in The Fifth Element, I kind of went.
I think he doesn't. We haven't seen a lot of the other nominees for Best Actor, so it's difficult to judge. But I think he's good. I think he's fine. There were some really good moments, but it's nothing truly exceptional.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't seen a great deal of footage of what Winston Churchill was like. But again, should you necessarily get a Best Actor nomination for impersonating someone, for caricaturing someone?
I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis won it for Lincoln, but I think that was actually well deserved, because that wasn't just about being the character; it was also the acting. And whereas Oldman's good at this, I don't know whether he deserves the Oscar. But haven't seen enough of the other nominees to actually judge that at this point.
Yeah.
The other thing,
Plus, we're not qualified.
we're not qualified, but who is? But yeah, makeup, they might get that, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They might get makeup, but Best Action, Best Movie, I really don't see.
What about cinematography? Or because there were some interesting visual flourishes. They had some nice framing of him.
So there were some interesting choices, and I think that was actually well done.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be clear, Blade Runner 2049 and Dunkirk, sorry, this was good work, but Dunkirk and Blade Runner are just superior on that level.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they have a lot more to work with.
They have, yeah.
But
there was some good works in cinematography, that's right. Some very nice things that were done, but if you're going to compare it with those two movies I just named, it's not really a contest, if you ask me.
yeah.
So, to conclude, should people go and watch this movie?
I wouldn't say you have to really go out of your way to watch it. If it's on a Sunday afternoon, after
It's that kind of movie. Yeah.
yeah.
If you want a rousing movie that's not very realistic, it's fine. If you want to watch a movie about that period in time, please do watch Dunkirk.
Did you find it that rousing?
I think it's meant to be. It's definitely meant to be, and if I can't really go into that anymore. Anti-cynical, that doesn't work for me. But I think a lot of people actually do feel that. Definitely in the last 15 minutes, that works for a lot of people. I think, just not for me, but I think some people will really enjoy it, and I have been enjoying it as we've heard. So that's the question, I think. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching.
If you watch this entire thing, then we love you. We'll see you next week. I was Tim.
I was until I'm Alex.
He is Alex. And please do like and subscribe and comment. Let us know what you think. Have a conversation with us.
Tell your friends.